I got to ask, how'd you guys find us? So,
I mean, you look up most haunted places in Milwaukee.
You're
Shakers.
on the list.
Then you read the history. It's, to me, a location isn't a location if it doesn't have very good history. And you obviously have done a very good job of chronicling and researching what happened in this building and the names that you have and the evidence that's been captured. Also, I'm a huge fan of either lost remains, remains that have been found or unidentified. So for you to find that pile of bones and then the potential for bodies to be in the basement still, that to me is like a really, really good location to investigate because that's disturbed energy.
Hi, this is Bob Weiss. I'm the host of Shaking Your World. Cheers. Folks, welcome home. Yet another edition of Tell Me a Story here at the magnificent Shakers in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are joined today by two guests that came in from Austin, Texas, one of my favorite cities in the country. And they have a very unusual and unique spin on their podcast. We have Colin and Courtney with us today. So first and foremost, welcome home.
Thank you.
Happy to have you guys. We've already done a couple of things to walk through, both on Shakers for the ghost tour portion and a little talk about Jeffrey Dahmer. And now I'd kind of like to just talk to you guys and see what your motivation was to get into the biz and how long you've been doing it and where you want to go. So please.
Well, I started Paranormal Files back in 2014 was when I filmed the first episode, which was crazy. And I put it on YouTube. I had a premiere at my high school. I was a senior in high school. And that was a pretty crazy case because teachers had told me that the place is haunted, kind of hear rumors, and I started interviewing ex-teachers, talking to the principal, and it opened up this huge story that no one even knew existed. I had these janitors come in that had walked out of their jobs and refused to come back, that were like visibly shaken and sweating to come back to my high school because they'd seen these apparitions and stuff. So posted that video, had a big premiere, people loved it. I got picked up for a show with Go90.com, which is Verizon Wireless's failed Netflix. And we shot that show. I thought this was going to be it, my big opportunity. Totally failed. Nobody watched it. You can't even see it anywhere. They took it offline. The only thing that exists out of that whole thing is a photo of me on their website, just like, which is funny. Sure. Very sad. But then I started doing the YouTube, and that was really in 2018, end of 2017, when I started doing 2 videos a week, traveling a bunch, and we have seen explosive growth. Now on YouTube, 570,000 subscribers. And Courtney and I, she's been filming with me for over a year now and doing all of this. But our podcast, Murder in America, has always been her dream to have a podcast. So we're sitting there one day talking about what should you do, like what career do you want to have. Let's do a podcast. Like, you listen to podcasts 24/7.
I always listen to podcasts, and I love true crime. It's always been my thing. I love paranormal stuff too, but true crime's really my passion. And so he just one day was like, "Look, you should start a podcast. Let's do it." And so we started it in January of this year, and it's done way better than we ever expected it to.
It's crazy.
We could have talked about this during the Dahmer portion. The vast majority of people that take that tour are female, 25 to 40, college educated, attractive, and I can't figure out what the thing is. So I've talked to other people that also do tours, and I've talked to psychologists that come here. What's up with this? And nobody has a definitive answer, but women really like true crime. They like serial killers.
Yes.
I don't know if they're planning for our demise here now or something, but how do I do this?
I was even going to say, I read something one time, and it's true. It's always females, and I read something where a psychologist was like, I personally think that maybe females like this because it's possible that this kind of stuff can happen to us, and maybe we're preparing ourselves like this. It could happen one day, you never know.
Sure. Well, when Netflix filmed that piece here for Dark Tourist, and we filmed, 10 different tours going on, and different sets of people would come and sign up for this thing, whatever. But women, there's always one woman at each one of these different things that they film who said, well, if he was alive, I'd like to date him. I'm thinking, what is in the air, the water right now
I've
that
heard
someone, not
that.
just one, but many people think this is a thing? You're gonna
Right.
rehabilitate them or something?
Right.
Something odd about how women think about some things. It's just kind
Right.
of bizarre. But anyway, congratulations. That's
Thank
fantastic
you.
success with that.
Thank you.
Have you talked to any serial killers? Do you want to?
I would love
Yeah,
to.
we would love to. I actually wrote about a year ago a bunch of letters to serial killers. I got a letter back from Gary Ridgway with a bunch of Christian stuff, which was, funny.
Weird.
People commit these crimes and then convert
of course.
post-crime.
Dahmer too, right?
Yeah, Tex Watson from Manson. He also sent me back a Christian thing. But I messaged or wrote a letter to, his name is Philip Jabrowski. Don't quote me on his last name. But he was a killer in California, carved a message into a woman's back, super brutal stuff. And I asked them, like, do you ever feel like the energy from your victims follows you? Are you kind of like haunted by that? And he sent me back like a 30-page letter with like, I think there was semen like on the letter. We were looking at it, like crusty shit all over it. And he's describing how he wants to like mutilate and assault these kids. And he sent me a hand-painted
Betty Johnson.
what is it?
Betty Johnson?
Not Betty Johnson.
No. The
Betty Boop.
Yeah.
A Betty Boop devil. And it says like, it's like just kind of weirdly evil feeling. It's a painting that this guy made on death row. He just died last
Right.
year. So that's like my biggest, I guess, crime person that I've talked to, killer-wise.
My association, I've met a number of people in the industry who are doing what you do, or filmmakers, like John Borowski. And Borowski specializes in serial killers. We're in serial killer culture that he filmed. And John's a little bit off, quite honestly. And I find that there are those artists, just like we get guys that specialize in serial killer pictures, right, and different artwork, and they're a little bit off too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, I mean, frankly, we're all off, right? All people are just a little bit off kilter from time to time. But I think that those people that really extol that, follow that, make a life out of that or something else, at some point, it's more than just a token interest in something, or more than
Right.
just a fascination. It's like it has to appeal to you somewhere. So I'm a
Definitely.
cinematographer, but all I'm going to do are serial killers. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
It is interesting, but I
Right.
mean, even to do what we do, going to on the haunted side of stuff, the scariest places you can imagine, oftentimes abandoned buildings,
Yep.
structurally very not good. You can fall through a ceiling or at any time.
Yep.
You have to be a little bit crazy to do that, which is like on our end. I know that we're a little bit, beyond the threshold of what normal people would do.
Well, that's, there's a line there between the artistry of something, a commitment to do something, and here's my cover story, because I find myself in all sorts of places doing the same damn thing. I know that normal people don't want to get the bejeebers scared out of them anyway, or risk
No.
life and limb or whatever.
No.
And yet there is an attraction to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I kind of get that, because you get a little adrenaline push that goes along with that.
Yes,
Yep. Oh.
definitely.
And you are doing something other people can't. But to specialize in filming just serial killers,
Right.
I don't know. That's beyond that little adrenaline push. That's beyond the artistry. That's, to me, saying something else is off kilter.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
Well, even
not that be personal, John. So,
this year we actually did a documentary on the Texas killing fields, which is, I don't know if you know the story, lots of young women found very brutally murdered outside of Houston. Courtney and I made this documentary together, and we were out there in the killing fields at 11, 1 a.m. And
what
people,
did you feel?
lots,
It was very,
lots.
and a lot of activity out there with our devices and everything, but just the feel of it is so eerie.
And that's a point I want to make that we've been talking about this whole trip as well, is with ghost hunting tools and stuff like that. It's very interesting, and you can get some answers, but the thing is, you can't get across the vibe. Even being down in the basement of Shakers in the cellar area, that has a very loaded, disorienting, almost dizzying energy to it.
Yep.
Right.
But-
And you can't feel that through the
No.
camera, you know? It's like you have to be there.
And you never, maybe one day you'll be able to VR, put like an energy suit on somebody and have them feel what you're feeling. But until then, you
Well, interesting you
can't.
mention that because we filmed a piece in 5 different cities and a long piece here on our tours for virtual tours. And I did this for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the pandemic had affected a lot of people, but above and beyond that, it's not a teaser, but it's a nice leader for maybe people that aren't ambulatory, can't get out, but hear about this, want to know what's going on. But it also serves a purpose as a primer for those people that are really, do I want to go take this BS thing in New Orleans where it's all boozy, or I want to take something like this? So it's a good tool for us to expose people to something. But unless you take this tour, unless you are walking downstairs, unless you feel that temperature change, that it's not a little gradient, it's huge, or anything else that goes on here, or even the walk in the cemeteries, you're just not going to get that.
No.
It's
Exactly.
nice though, so people can see what things look like and get a visual. But galvanic skin response, unless your hair is standing up
Seriously.
and something is telling you run,
Yeah.
you don't quite get it.
We've had that a million times, even in buildings where someone will say, this is the most active part. You go there, you feel nothing.
Right.
Then you walk into another room that doesn't have as much history, but it's like right here.
Well, energy moves around. It doesn't stay in one
exactly.
place.
Right.
And I
That's
think,
exactly.
I hear that from people. Oh yeah, restroom. I went back there and there was no little girl. I'm like, okay. And then later on, it's like, well, but downstairs. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
just, that's something you come across on YouTube, especially. Being face to face with people, and anybody online, if you're watching, I love y'all. But a lot of times there's a disconnect between actually thinking, like, I'm here right now, or watching it and thinking, this is what it feels like, And then people will comment, oh, I've been here before and I didn't have anything happen. Like, the fact that you had this happen here is impossible. And it's like, it is. It's not like that. It's the energy moves all the time.
Yeah. Some days you'll get something.
Yeah.
Some days you won't.
And I always, what I tell people is, I don't want to talk more than you a
No,
bunch.
you're good.
When you have a haunted location, even like you here in this bar, it's not like every single night you're seeing the ghost of the woman in white. You know what I mean?
Right.
And people don't understand that for like a show like ours, we only have a very small window inside of these buildings where we try our hardest to get anything interesting to, study. But these people who live here in haunted houses, mansions, they work there, they've been there for years, 5-6 years. They have 3 or 4 really big experiences, and that even, if you look at that, they had to be at the right place at the right time to see that exact glimpse of somebody walk by. It's not constant. I'm sure you have people come in all the time
Colin,
to bitch about that.
there were 2 times that I ran like a schoolgirl here, and one, my girlfriend was with me upstairs as well. And I'm not going to get into that. I published this. You can read about this or whatever else. But to experience this, and again, I've been around the world and I've experienced all sorts of things. I don't go looking for things. I happen to find myself in places that then have something going on. But when you encounter something, there is not a doubt in your mind, and it doesn't matter how much you and I talk about this kind of stuff here, or show you videos of something, it is never the same, because when that thing is there and it doesn't want you to be there, you know it.
Oh, yeah.
You know it in a huge way. But even in Key West a couple of years ago, we were at the Robert Doll, right? And I don't know if you've seen this or not, but you might be familiar with the story. They've got this doll, and it's over 100 years old. And there's a huge backstory I'm not going to waste our time talking about, but it's fascinating, and once you go and see that. But he's behind glass. It's like the Mona Lisa in a way. So we were down this spring filming as well, and I'm telling them my story because when I was down there a dozen years ago, they got pictures everywhere, and then they've got storylines and apology letters that are sent. I'm sorry I took your picture without permission. This has happened to me. Da-da-da, please forgive me. There's a letter from, at that time, Governor Bush. Don't take his picture, and whatever else, right? So, it doesn't matter to me, right, because I'm that guy. So I'm taking pictures, and we walk maybe 20 feet beyond that point, and something hits me in the head. So this is in the East Montello Museum, which had just opened up in the morning. There's nobody in that wing of the museum except for my girlfriend and I, and she didn't hit me, and I'm bleeding. I'm spurting blood,
Oh my
right?
God.
What the hell hit me in the head, right? bam, I mean, I'm dazed. So then a number of other maladies take place that we're there, and we leave and get the ice, and we're leaving town anyway, so we're driving up to Lauderdale to fly out, and we stopped at the Bahia Honda Beach, and we were there a few days earlier, and now the tropical storms had come through, and it's like 5 days later, and there's nobody else in the water except for us, and there's a chop going on, and she and I are out, I don't know, 40, 50 feet or something, and it's waist high, and there's a log that's coming my way. It's an odd-looking log, and she sees a coconut over there, so she swims out to the coconut. About the same time she hits the coconut, this log hits me in the chest. I realize it's someone's leg that's completely enmeshed with seaweed,
What?
and you can already guess it's not a coconut; it's someone's head. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Cuban refugees leaving, trying to get away. Storms come up. They get washed off this little raft they have. The sharks get them. So the deputy that responded said it happens all the time. Okay. So anyway, then we had all sorts of things took place. I coshed my head down the little tram as we're at the airport and left my keys and glasses. I mean, it was just a cluster of all sorts of things. So I don't believe in coincidences. I don't really know what to make about that, but stuff does happen. So, when you get a caution sometimes not to do something, you should maybe heed that a little bit. That's my takeaway.
Yeah.
Right.
And the same thing with some things here. When it's overpowering that you're not welcome, well, maybe you should think about not being there.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Even the coincidences, like how you were just saying, it was weird because when you were taking us on the tour down in the basement, right? Like I'm talking like 20 seconds before you said people feel like something in their chest. 20 seconds before you said that, my chest started to feel tight.
Okay.
And then you said that, and it was like, oh my God, and it was right before you said that too, and it was just the weirdest thing.
Cool.
You were doing the interview, so I wasn't going to interrupt.
I got to ask, how'd you guys find us? So,
I mean, you look up most haunted places in Milwaukee.
you're
Shakers.
on the list.
Then you read the history. It's, to me, a location isn't a location if it doesn't have very good history. And you obviously have done a very good job of chronicling and researching what happened in this building and the names that you have and the evidence that's been captured. Also, I'm a huge fan of either lost remains, remains that have been found or unidentified. So for you to find that pile of bones and then the potential for bodies to be in the basement still, that to me is like a really, really good location to investigate because that's disturbed
when you
energy.
have a chance, you should look up some news articles on some of the medical examiners in Milwaukee. We've had some that are off kilter. We had one that collected men's gonads, so she would have just jars and jars and jars at home of testicles. One who would just cut off units as well. I mean, maybe something happens when you're there all day and working with dead people. I'm not sure, but
You just have the urge.
and I had to think that Milwaukee is not that unique with our medical examiners that they go sideways. I'm sure
Right.
maybe that's just a thing as well that is a storyline for you somewhere.
Yeah.
But I'd have to imagine if you deal with death all the time that your perspective is skewed, and maybe it just sounds like a good idea to just start, cutting off balls and putting them in a jar. I don't know.
That is an interesting collection.
Seriously.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
What do you do with
But
it
when you
once it's
are
there?
around, when you do deal with that, I mean, even like how we said, we're constantly researching about murderers and serial killers, and then we've even said, like, when we're just walking down the street having a good day, like a thought will pop in our head, like, I wonder if anyone's been killed here, or I wonder how many killers are here. Like, it's just on our minds all the time because it's just what we deal with. You
Well,
know?
then, I think that's good because, from my perspective, it opens your mind to more things, and obviously your minds are open to begin with, right? But when you are just walking somewhere and you get that sense, it's just like a copper on a detail. You realize that there's people that mean you harm, right? Attractive women walking around dark streets or anywhere else. Sometimes you've got that sixth sense already that someone can mean you harm, right?
Exactly.
But by and large, I think most people just kind of amble around and, and are oblivious. But more people should plug themselves into their environment
Definitely.
and be aware.
Definitely.
To me, also, people like to shy away from dark history heavily. Either they don't think they can handle it, they think it's disrespectful to discuss this. But if we don't actually talk about that history, and if you don't learn it, that is even more of an issue to me than ignoring it. You know, it makes the world worse to forget rather than to remember.
We have a neat little thing that we're doing, and we got sideways this summer. So we were supposed to be in Haiti filming.
Oh, wow.
The State Department didn't want us to go there before the president was assassinated, and certainly that put a kibosh on that. So I want to do a thing on indigenous religions. So I wanted to go back and do voodoo, that's there. I want to do Obeah in Jamaica. Jamaica is more anti-American, more anti-white than I've encountered in all the years I've gone down there, so we stayed away from that. They don't let us bring in our own equipment right now, or people. We have to hire their people. There's no guarantee the equipment's going to work.
Wow.
We're not going to be resorts. We're going to be up in the mountains, and you know, you can't go to Best Buy because your card has failed or something, right? So put a little kibosh on that. I was supposed to be in Cuba cooking for a art installation on September 9th, and now Cuba's got their lockdown for all information. They've now assassinated 12 generals in the past month and a half.
Oh my God.
So the military is pitched against the police, who are both pitched against the civilians. The musicians are trying to get people out every night, which they're doing, and they're getting beaten with sticks. They're not, at this point, getting shot. But they're taking out the old guard, because the old guard was saying, well, we've had this experiment now for 70 years, it's not working out, we need to move forward, right? Well, that doesn't appeal to some people in power, right?
Right.
So I have gotten a notification that I can get back in next month, so he and I will sneak in without the girls this time and see what we can do, and hopefully it's going to work out well.
Exciting.
Wanted to get into Brazil, but the State Department back in May said, don't go there, we're not going to back you up, which is important because we were in Guatemala in 2015, and at the same time El Chapo was there. It was an ugly scene. We had to get an extraction from the State Department. So if they're not there, I've learned I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
But we will be in Mexico at the end of this month for Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, which is supposed to have been the last part for us, right? So we're going to work backwards now and see what the next year provides. Obviously, post-pandemic-y kind of a thing.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Hopefully.
That's
Something.
really exciting.
So I'm really thrilled that you guys got here, but clearly you've been to other places. Who's the most interesting person that you've talked to in the genre?
What do you think?
I mean, besides me, of course.
Right, definitely.
I would say a very interesting interview I did was with a guy named Bob Cranmer. He's out of Pittsburgh. He's an ex-politician.
Okay.
Very powerful guy.
Okay.
Big force behind the new Steelers stadium. Bob is very respected in the community, and like worked right with the president in the 90s. And he lived in a house that he claims was infested with demons. There was slime pouring down the walls, or blood, something like that. And this was like recent. Tons of activity. They had all these researchers come in. They found all these things in the walls. There's people buried on the property. It is a very, very long story. He wrote a whole book about it, and he's been on some TV shows. But to have a person who is a politician, who's in power, actually be willing to come out and say that they have experienced like some of the wildest shit I can imagine experiencing was like crazy. To be sitting in his house, cold Pennsylvania day, and he's sitting by the fire, kind of rocking back and forth, just telling me this story. I'm like, dude, this is just.
Right.
I can just
Does he
listen to
still
you
live
talk.
there?
Yeah, he still lives in the house.
God.
Yeah, they had like a 20-40 day exorcism where they had like groups and groups of these religious officials every single day coming in their basement for hours. And there was something, I can't remember the end of his story, but something big happened that supposedly cleansed it. Now the whole family lives there, and
Everything's good.
Everybody's fine.
Wow.
Okay.
But yeah, that was definitely one of the most interesting, I would say. That was just a one-off interview. We didn't even investigate. I just wanted to get the story.
Yeah.
Right.
But what about you? Who do you think's interesting that we've talked to?
Dan, right? Or that you've talked to? Like
Which one?
Dan Bell.
Oh.
Like in terms of like the stuff that he's seen and
Yeah,
everything.
I have a really good friend. He's also a filmmaker. on YouTube. He was like my old idol on YouTube, and then through my channel, I became friends with him, which is crazy. He lives in Baltimore, and he does abandoned buildings, dead malls. This is his big brand. Where, you know what a dead mall is?
I do.
He just goes, and he's pretty much the guy that popularized that term with his videos. But he has seen and experienced just about some of the craziest things I could imagine hearing that someone has experienced in Baltimore in abandoned buildings in the city. Because he'll go there, just him, just a flashlight and a camera, you know.
Did you hear that knocking sound?
Quick, get the sound.
I think it could be something.
Yeah, now you got to get the ghost boxes out over there. Follow the noise. We're not that type of show, everybody. That's what we're saying here. But yeah, to sit there and it's just great to get to meet all these people, even like you, and just hear their stories and not read them, to actually listen to somebody face to face tell you these crazy, cool things. And I love it. It's my favorite part of the job.
Cool.
Yeah, it really is.
So Europe, when you guys going?
We're actually wanting to go for our honeymoon.
Yeah.
There are so many stories there
Oh.
that have been untouched, and they are thousands of years old, but the storyline continues on and on and on. And I would say you guys can make just a career out of doing parts of that.
Yeah.
So,
I would love that.
when I
We
was
definitely should.
I was in England a couple years ago, 2019.
Sure.
And I have a really good friend who has the biggest paranormal channel in England.
Okay.
And he took me to a house. Because in England, it's really not illegal to go to private properties that are abandoned. I mean, the police can't arrest you, essentially. Yeah, which I didn't know.
Is it like a squatter's right kind of thing or something?
Almost.
Okay.
It's more like, I mean, in England, in America, if you die, your house, you know, and you don't have anyone to give your house to, gets transferred over and whatnot, or government. But in England, people can die and they don't transfer their homes, and their property will just sit there for hundreds of years.
In their name.
Yeah, in their name. Like, there's a house I went to where a woman had passed away from some sort of disease, and she had been laying in her bed for about 40, 50 days before they found her. And so all they did was take her body out. They didn't take out any of the possessions, nothing. So there's an actual imprint of her body on the bed still. And she was in there for so long, immobile. It's really sad, actually, that her family didn't, you know, step in. But there's piles of fingernails, like big piles all around the bed from her just sitting there for months, basically unable to do anything. And like all of her stuff is there. But the other house I was talking about, there's a guy named John Lowe. Recently, I think this was 2016.
Okay.
He took a shotgun and killed his partner and her daughter at his house. He was a dog breeder, had some animals, he had like a big monkey cage, and he went through and shot and killed every animal on his property. And by the time the police got there, he was sticking a shotgun in his mouth, and he pulled the trigger, and there were no more bullets, so he got arrested. And about a month after he died in prison, a few years later, I went to his house where all this happened, completely abandoned, still pictures of the family there. It's out in the woods, deep in the woods. You got to walk down a path. I can't remember the name of the place. But when we were there, randomly, this is like way out in the forest, like out there. We're coming back to the car, and we see a light down at the end of the road. No cars. We were there 4 or 5 hours. No cars, no lights. And all of a sudden, I see a flashlight, and it's like, what the hell is that? And it's like, oh my God, the flashlight is running towards us. And we like yelled at them. They just kept running. It was pitch black, so I still get chills thinking about it. Because we had no idea who the hell this person is. So my friend gets in the car and we speed off, and he hits like a log or something in the road. So it's like a horror movie. We can see this guy running towards us, this light, and he's like on this log. I'm like, dude, you got to get the fuck out of here, man. Like, holy shit. And right before the guy got to the car, or girl, whoever it was, we took off, and that was like, to me, one of those experiences that was just...
Shame you weren't filming that.
I know.
I was. I got it all on film. Yeah, that's an old episode of the show.
my.
But that was just, you know...
The blood from everything, all of the family's possessions. So stuff like that is just really, really eerie. But also it's like a gold mine for paranormal stuff, you know?
And this goes back to the whole conversation about Dahmer that we just had, that, in my opinion, people are 10 billion times always going to be scarier than anything paranormal could even imagine being. People are the real demons, you know? Look at Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Like, even if his ghost was here in this building, it would be nothing compared to him actually being here and doing what he did, you know?
Right.
But
The presence. So, you know, Ed Gein, I mean, you had to experience some things there as well.
Yeah, that was really
So,
interesting.
Plainfield, Wisconsin.
Plainfield.
Yep.
We went to Spiritland Cemetery where he robbed graves. We went to the Plainfield Cemetery, which is also crazy that he's buried so close to Bernice Warden.
His
Stone's
victim.
throw, literally. He could throw a stone over there. Then we went to his property, or where his house was, and the hardware store where Bernice Warden was murdered. And then we ended at the Wishara County Museum, the old jail where he was booked. He had his own big cell. And a couple people that we know in the paranormal scene, great people, brought out, well, for one, Ed Gein's supposed old school razor, like a cutting. I was thinking like a
Straight
Gillette the whole
razor.
time, but when I saw it, I'm like, what the hell was
That
I
makes
thinking
sense.
about that for? And then Ed Gein's knife and some of his hunting rifles and even his skis. So when we were in there, devices, I like the stuff that's more proximity, like the REM pods or like a music box based on if there's movement.
Right.
And those things were going just crazy the night before, complete silence on all of them, fresh batteries. We even changed the batteries, and it's like, there was just
Right.
something here, and we haven't even had the chance to go through all of our footage and the voice recordings and stuff, but what did you think about it?
I thought it was because we put the devices like the REM pods and stuff around the knives, and like he said before, they weren't going off, and then right when we put them next to him, they were just going crazy. So it's just weird to see because I don't know, just stuff like that. There is movement around it, and it's like kind of hard to explain that away, you know?
Yeah, and it's hard to fathom sometimes for me, haunted objects, because I'm just very skeptical. I'm open to everything, but I'm, you know, it's kind of when you do this for a very long time and you start seeing all these different things and debunking so many things, your mind just naturally becomes more skeptical.
Comes up with excuses
Yeah.
as why it could happen.
And that's why for me it's like, I don't know why the hell Ed Gein would be hanging around on this old razor blade that, you know, he might have used. But then at the same time, the activity that we captured is like,
Right.
there is something here. There was
Right.
something, 1,000%. The feel of like, holy shit, dude. Like,
I wonder if that isn't like remnants of some form of DNA or blood that's somehow
Right.
in the cracks or something on the knife. So it's not the
Seriously.
knife per se, because it's, you know, a tool's a tool, right?
Right.
I could set you on fire right now with this, but this is not evil.
Please,
Right. No, exactly
So-
though. It's true. And I mean there's such evil associated with that object. Like even you've investigated axes that have been used to murder families, and you had the same kind of activity around
Yeah.
it. And it's like it's not like the person's there itself, but that device itself was used for such evil that there is such a negative energy still, I feel like, connected to it, you know?
Yeah, that was in Redwood Falls, Minnesota. My dad and I got to go to a museum last December where they had an axe that a guy used to chop his entire family to death, and then he hanged himself in the house. And they have this thing in like a locked box. It's in the back of the museum. And for us, they actually brought it out, said we don't ever allow people to do this, but here you go, open it up and you can like hold it. And this is from the police. This is not like an alleged weapon, it's like documented. And to hold that thing, that's also the same, you know, idea of I know what I'm holding, so it's obviously scarier, but it really is like a magnetic almost thing that comes through your arm where you're just like, dude, this is
Well, you
this
even
is
said
bad,
like you
know?
like it almost changed your mood holding it.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
knowing what happened there, you know.
And that's what's just eerie, you know?
I wonder if you get in to see like a squeaky from or something. That would be interesting.
Right?
Also, my grandma's axe.
Oh, yeah.
Another reason why I'm very interested in true crime is because my great great grandpa was allegedly murdered by my great great grandma. She was like in a mental institution. She came home for a weekend.
You're gonna marry this woman.
Oh, I am.
Right.
Give us
And-
a couple months.
Yeah, watch out, Colin. But she allegedly murdered him with an axe, and my grandma, she kept the axe. We still have it in our family. And she's the other day she was asking me like, do you want anything when I die one day? What do you want of mine? And I told her I want the axe. Like, that's a part of my family. No one else in my family wants it. I'll take it.
Of course.
Right. Maybe we'll come up with our own museum one day, and it'll be in ours. So.
Yeah, I've got a lot of collecting to do.
Yeah.
It is interesting that, you're obsessed with, not obsessed with murder, but it's your interest in these crime stories, and that it's in your family.
It is.
Literally.
It's like a huge story
I have no
in our
connection
family.
in that sense, but
I've been told that story ever since I was little, so I think just growing up, it's always just been fascinating to me that people are capable of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Even people in my own family, I consider myself a good person, but clearly someone in my family wasn't. So, I mean, it's like you said, it could be anyone,
it really can be, and
Spain, you guys should go to Spain. I mean, everyone should go to Spain. Spain is remarkable for many reasons. The best cuisine, the best food porn in the entire world is northern Spain. San Sebastian, Santander, Bilbao, whatever. Barcelona, certainly.
Right.
But also the Spanish Inquisition. And there are several museums that are set up in northern Spain. And you want to talk about the inhumanity of what people are capable of doing to other people. It is blood-curdling. And to go there, and though you're not supposed to touch some of these implements, you get, man, oh man, you get that feeling.
Right.
Dark, beyond dark, ugly.
That would be really interesting to go do that.
I've never been to Spain, but I've been to Oklahoma.
Free dog night. Good for you. You were born there, right? Okay.
That would be cool, though, man. That would be cool.
Yeah.
That would. Wow.
Well, thank you for having us, Bob.
Colin, this has been a pleasure. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you very much. And I'm thrilled you guys came up here, and I hope you have a good time tonight in the penthouse, the dead hooker's bedroom. And I look forward to chatting in the future as well.
Absolutely.
So, I'd be honored anytime you want me on for something. Give me a call, and we'll hook up.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Folks,
Thank you.
thank you very much for taking the time out to watch this, and we hope you enjoyed it. Any questions, get back to me at shakersmilwaukee@gmail.com. I'm very much interested in anything you have to say. In the meantime, be good to yourselves, be good to the people you love, and make it a better world. Cheers.
Cheers.